And welcome back to the program. You're listening to Sacred Space here in CJUM 101.5 FM at Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And we're sitting here this morning chatting with Daniel Schmidt, the creator of the incredible Inner Worlds, Outer Worlds documentary. Teaches at his Breathe True Yoga Center in Ontario. And he's working on his new film, Samadhi. Welcome back, Daniel.
Thank you.
We had a call from a longtime listener, and we've had her on the show 2 or 3 or 4 different times. And she's a great artist. I don't know, but she's a good author anyway. I'm not sure about the artist part. I don't recall. But she had this interesting question, and she was wondering on your take on the thoughts on desire and that inner restlessness to know more that it seems like so many seekers have, that restlessness of just wanting to keep finding more and more and more. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if you could talk about those thoughts on desire.
Sure. I would say, that's probably one of the biggest questions in meditation that comes up, because it's like there's this sense that we're wanting something, right? We're wanting, like in Buddhism, they have this term called dukkha, which is, it's a sense of unsatisfactoriness with what is here and right now. So dukkha, it creates suffering. It's this endless wanting of something to be other than what it is. And it's a paradox because, we're going into meditation, and it's like ultimately, if you're wanting anything to happen, you're not doing the meditation because it's being here and now. So at a certain point on the spiritual path, I think people realize the desire is to overcome all desires. So it's actually taking desire to almost to the point of where the desire becomes a surrender. And to me, this is what this is the essence of what samadhi is. I think there are two kind of like what I was describing before, like the yin and yang aspect. It's like we live in this world of duality until we realize samadhi. So there's this aspect of us that is, it's making an effort to be present and to be conscious and to be aware. So this is sort of the yang aspect of meditation again, where it's like we're trying to make something happen. We're trying to make ourselves be here and now. So, if you're meditating, it's like you're consciously coming back to what is in the present moment, in the here and now. But that on its own is not meditation. There's another aspect. That's the in the yogic tradition, it's called dharana, which is the effort, the single-pointed consciousness aspect of it. But then there is dhyana or jhana, which is, it's the feminine surrender, which is also happening in the present moment and in the meditation. And when I say meditation, I also mean life. Like, to me, life is meditation. I don't distinguish between the two. So I think like the desire that is fueling our wanting, it's like we want this union. We want samadhi. It's like we're longing for wholeness and, a non-fragmented version of ourself. We just want this union and completeness, and all spiritual paths, I think, are wanting samadhi. It's, it goes by many different names, like, moksha or, the kingdom of heaven, whatever you want to call that. That union, that desire to be one with the source is at the root of all spiritual pursuits. But it's a paradox. It's a paradox because actually everything that we are wanting is actually here and now. So for me, what the biggest realization was in my own spiritual path is who is wanting, who is desiring. Mm-hmm. Is like the one who's wanting something to be other than what it is simply that mind that is creating dukkha, unsatisfactoriness. So by self-inquiry, like in Zen and all these different traditions, they use koans, or they have these great tools to know the self. And the question is always, at the beginning at least, who is inquiring? Who is meditating? Who are you? And, at the Enlightenment intensives where they do dyads, they'll ask the question, they'll say, tell me who you are, and over for days and days and days. And at a certain point, it's the mind wanting. It's the mind asking the question in the first place. And eventually, it's like the mind will quiet down, and eventually it's like you come into a realization of who is wanting, who is desiring. And the truth is not in the answer to that question. The truth is in the quietness where that question is. It's like it's burned itself out. It's like a candle that has burned down and there's nothing left. So in that stillness, a lot of my favorite teachers will say, just be still and know. And so it's in that stillness where there's that direct knowingness, the direct beingness of the realization of what that desire is pulling you towards. And it's not a thing. It's actually emptiness itself.
I like that. It actually brought me to two things. And I actually wrote them down this time because sometimes I have a habit of forgetting. And one was, I had this old friend. He has since passed on from Lou Gehrig's disease years ago. I had this really cool cabin in BC, and it had a fair amount of property and a number of outbuildings. So I remember he came one day. I've known him for quite a number of years before then, but he's like, hey, can I come out and stay, and just to meditate, basically. And I said, sure. So in one of the times that he was out back, I went over and brought him some tea, and we were sipping tea, and he said this thing that's always stuck with me. He said two things, actually. The first one was, he said, there's only two ways to live. One is either you're in joy or you're not. And when you're not. Sometimes you can be so joyous you forget that you're joyous, but when you're not joyous, when you're not. And the other one was, when it comes to meditation, and what brought this up was what you were just talking about when you see no difference between the two. And that was one of the things he said. He said there's two types of meditation. Passive meditation, where you're sitting and trying not to think, and you're not, you're just going either within or without, depending. And then the other one is, was it passive? And I think it was active. And that was everything else. Whether you're doing the dishes, whether you're taking a walk, whether you're driving a car, whether you're going to work, whether it is your work, that every second of every day of your whole life is a meditation.
Yes.
I absolutely love that. And it's something that's always stuck with me. And I try to live my life that way, that everything is a meditation, so that when you go into it, you try to be conscious, you try to be aware, you try to be awake, and you try to be present here now.
Yes, and I think, like for me, the meditation, just sitting on a cushion, what's the point if it's not going to, you might have some transcendent experiences, but ultimately it has to do something for your life. And for me, what I've realized is that what you gain in the meditation, the ability to be present in the moment, in the now, it translates into every aspect of life. So, when you're with your partner, or you're talking to someone, or you're doing your taxes, it doesn't matter. It's like you can be fully engaged with that one thing in a undistracted way. In Zen, they say, if you're eating, just eat. If you're walking, just walk. Mm-hmm. And I love that. It's so simple. Yeah. If you're sitting, just sit. And it's really hard to actually do that because we're so fragmented. In certain Zen traditions, the only instruction they'll give to meditate is just sit. Mm-hmm. I think they call that shikantaza. And when you try and just sit, you realize how much is going on inside of us. It's unbelievable. The mind is going, there are all these sensations, like there's a whirlwind of stuff going on. So to just sit is, very, very, it's a very poignant teaching, even though it's so simple.
Yeah, and isn't that the way of it, eh? A lot of things are amazingly simple, just maybe not easy.